What happens when the ground beneath an entire industry disappears? And because that's what we are witnessing right now. So in 2025, AI startups captured 51% of all global venture capital. That's 310 billion flowing into companies that didn't exist 5 years ago. Meanwhile, Indian IT companies, IT services giants, TCS, Infosys, Wipro, HCL, Cognizant lost $150 billion in market value in 9 months. TCS, which never laid off people in 57 years, cut 12,000 jobs in July, and Accenture's stock down 25% in the last 12 months. So this isn't, a bad year, but this is capital choosing a different future. And with me today, we have Dharmendra, who is the former CEO, and he's bringing the perspective of someone who has built and led services organizations through multiple transformations. And we have Praveen, who is the former CTO, bringing the buyer's lens, having been on the other side of these decisions at enterprise level. And here's what makes this conversation valuable. They are not defending current positions, they are sharing what they have seen from the trenches, both selling and buying in this shifting landscape. And the other data point that I would like to share, and we can't ignore. So 77% of enterprises now expect their IT partners to deliver AI expertise, not just labor arbitrage. But 95% of AI pilots never make it to production, as per MIT study. So there is a huge gap between expectation and execution, and that's where transformation happens, or where business, break. Dharmendra, you wrote recently, AI is an bubble, but unchecked AI hype might be. So if we relate it with industry pioneers, what they are talking about is there's a massive AI build out which is necessary to maintain leadership. But critics say we are investing ahead of any proven returns. So my question to both of you: Are we moving too fast, too slow, or are we asking the wrong question entirely?
So,
Dharmendra,
in my
maybe we.
yeah, in my opinion, Vish, we are moving pretty much in the same way that we have always moved.
Hmm,
Because any new technology comes, there is an initial hype that it is going to change the whole world. But the world doesn't change in a day. It takes time.
hmm,
But I think we are going through that hype phase in the artificial intelligence also. If you have to look at how the change will go through, we can look at what happened in digital before AI,
hmm,
or what happened with cloud before digital, or what happened with remote infrastructure before cloud, or what
hmm,
happened with .com before that, and before that, ERP. In technology, every eighth year, there has been some change, some transformation, some disruption
hmm,
that has happened. And every time we have thought that we are reaching to a point that it is going to change everything. But thankfully, so every time we have found newer opportunities, and we have seen that the businesses are expanding with the usage of technology. It is not
hmm,
going to be any different even now as well. It is just that so far the IT service providers were the one who were providing services in the technology, but now even the service providers are also impacted because a lot of work that they were doing is also getting automated with the use of
hmm,
artificial intelligence. So it is very natural for us to understand both about opportunities as well as the disruption, and feel the disruption very closer to our own home.
hmm.
But I would believe that it is definitely going to open up the new set of opportunities going forward. So yes, I can see that the IT services are a little bit down right now with respect to their valuation or the kind of opportunities that are coming up. But I
Hmm.
think we are all not rethinking, we are actually reshaping the way services are going to get delivered. It is definitely not going to be in the same way that it has
Yeah.
always been. It is going to be different. Hence, we don't have to. talk about rethinking, we need to talk about reshaping.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a very strong statement. And if you what you talk about historically, the historical pattern says that it's not a bubble, so it could be disruption, but it could mean a lot of opportunities for the organizations, for the various stakeholders who are involved. Praveen, let me ask this question to you from the other side of the of this landscape. So how do you see? Are
So,
we? Are we? Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, yeah. So, thanks, Vishwendra. So, when we talk of buyer's perspective, okay, uh,
Mm,
because I've been on the other side. So, buyer basically owns the risk, okay. So, the outcome is important to the buyer,
mm,
okay. And so, therefore, there is a change in the way the buying parameters or imperatives have changed. While there are certain advantages, as we talked about, there are also certain different parameters. Because earlier, what we used to look at is to outsource coding. Now, with
mm,
AI coming in, we are actually outsourcing cognition. That
mm,
needs governance. That needs the governance model. That needs the ethical model. Now, interestingly, you talked about 95% of the pilots do not succeed, right? So only 5% have been successful.
mm,
Fortunately for me, I've been an early adopter of emerging technologies. Okay, so way back for about 8 or 9 years, after the MIT courses and Oxford courses, we got an introduction. So I've seen, like, if I have to borrow from the Edison code, I've seen more than 100 ways of what works and a few
mm,
ways what actually doesn't work, or rather the way which don't work are much more, and that is much more valuable. Okay, so we've seen both. We have seen setbacks, we've seen challenges, and we have also seen the successes. Now, if I have to generalize, okay,
mm,
of course, valuation will always follow momentum. Okay, the startups, the venture capitals, the funding, which is a very interesting statistics. But momentum need not necessarily mean sustained, right? Okay,
mm,
we have some real world cases wherein there is an Indian LLM, okay, which was promoted as a large language model, which is India specific with the indigenization, and similarly a communication platform, India
mm,
specific with security first. While it got the early traction, it could not sustain, and
mm,
the failures were not technical; they were all mostly human failures because
mm,
it could not capture the distribution, the culture, and the adoption which has to be driven. At the same time, we also see examples of where there has been success. Okay, there is a healthcare related AI platform in India, which has
mm,
gone and been successful in 70 odd countries. Okay,
mm, mm,
so that side of examples also there. And also, if I look at the services team with whom we have been working, whether it is Datamatics or Wipro, IBM, etc., we definitely see a change in their approach, okay, where they are trying to engage in the services. However, it is rather too early to say whether the product companies will take a total precedence. Maybe it still take time. But from a bias perspective, when we are looking at the options, of course, speed is important.
mm.
Of course, cost of ownership is important. But now we are also conscious about the overall governance, accountability, and the ethics. So that is what
Mm.
is changing.
Thank you, Praveen. So that's a you also shared a very interesting point, especially from the perspective of the governance which is required, and understanding the fact that there's always a complex structure which is required, especially for these kind of technology deployment. So governance is key, and this governance may probably increase. The importance of this governance may probably increase as we move forward. And you did talk about some more areas that could, in our earlier conversation, you did talk about regulations which could also impact.
Sure.
So obviously, the governance would certainly be there. Yeah, you were you saying something?
Yeah, yeah, of course, that you bought it at the right time. The
Hmm.
regulations, because earlier we used to be worried about the GDPR compliance. Now
Hmm.
we also have to be very particular about the DPDP compliance. Okay, that's an
Hmm.
added layer. So whichever solutions, whether it is an hybrid model or AI heavy product or agentic AI based solution, we have to make sure that we kind of check box all the key areas so that the compliance, governance, and ethics is also taken care of. And that
Okay.
adds a lot of effort into the whole process.
Yeah. Okay. We'll go in more details as we move, as we have, go through individual segment, as we have a couple of questions. But for everyone who is watching, please drop your question in the comments. We'll weave them into our conversation as we go. And if you have any insights that you want to share with us, feel free to share your insights with us in the comment section on the event page. So if we look at the ground which is now shifting, and as you shared, a couple of your understanding of what is happening within the landscape. So Dharmendra, from your experience, as you have been leading services organization, transforming them to a strategic player in the market. So could you walk us through how client conversations have evolved? I mean, 2 or 3 years ago, what buyers were asking for versus what they are demanding today, and where have you seen firms struggle to make those pivots?
Yeah. See, the client conversations are definitely changing as we see artificial intelligence getting established in whatever form and shape. We can all continue to discuss that how successfully those experiments are being done. But more important is that how are clients trying to adopt to the artificial intelligence. There are some who are early adopters, and then there are others who like to follow. The early adopters will try to really look at that, can I get competitive edge by adopting the artificial intelligence early on. The advantage with them is that even if they get very small lead by implementing a use case or implementing an application or implementing any business process with respect to that, the advantage is huge, and they get to see the good innovation and differentiation for which they can get a competitive advantage. Then there are others who are followers. So they may not do as much experimentation, they will spend lesser money, but they are asking, what are the use cases that you think are getting successful? And what is that I can go and adopt at the least possible cost? These are the second type of conversations that we are seeing. But
Right.
all in all, everybody is really looking at how do we experiment? How can we experiment? Because it is not something that there are way too many use cases. There are some low-hanging fruits which are there, and which, of course, everybody is trying to lay their hands on. But when it comes to really applying that to the business, everybody is really looking at how can they do the experiments, and can those experiments be successful? That is the first conversation that is happening. Second, they look at, if they do that experiment, where can they show quick returns? Now that is very, very important, because every CIO organization, or if you want to call chief AI officer organization, every organization is saying that I need to adopt. Unlike when it was digital technologies or cloud, people had the choice of waiting. But with artificial intelligence, everybody seems to be in a hurry. That are we going to be left behind? And in my opinion, this idea also got induced in people through COVID, because we saw very clear differentiation that people who had adopted e-commerce early on, they were ready to open their stores much, much faster than those who could not. And
That
then
is true.
suddenly the adoption of e-commerce and digital started happening a lot immediately after COVID.
Yeah.
And now with artificial intelligence, people are overwhelmed that what impact can it bring it to them? Okay. And it is on both the sides, where is it a productivity improvement or linear changes that we are talking about, or are we really talking about transformational changes? So every client is really looking at definitely that what linear changes can I bring in. That means efficiency improvement, cost reduction, productivity improvement. These are linear changes. But then can I change the business model completely?
Yeah.
Okay, can I relook at the way I deliver my services or my product and
Mm.
create new revenue stream for me? Okay, now those are transformational changes that are happening. So the questions are on both the sides, and rightly so, because everyone has to really look at what is the appetite that they have. But at the
Mm.
same time, there is a level playing field again for a lot of organization to rethink and reimagine what difference can they make if they become early adopter for this particular technology. So that's the conversation that I'm seeing mostly, which is all positive in my opinion, and leading towards early adoption or quicker adoption of the artificial intelligence.
Thank you, Dharmendra. In fact, you talked about some experiments, but experiments are actually not getting money. I mean, so how many experiments can you do, right? For to meet the expectation of the client, experiments would not get you the revenues. So that's always a, how much of investment are you going to do in these experiments? How till what is your runway for these kind of conversations when we have? But yeah, I'll move to Praveen. Before that, there's a comment that has come from Jinchandra Mule. We have seen more productivity improvements using automation and AI data analytics, reduce SLA tickets through Julius implementation, which has been shown great knowledge. Share from KT Docs. So thank you, Jinchendra, for sharing your comment. I think
That's an example of linear improvements that are
yeah,
already happening, and there are many such use cases which have been successfully done by the companies. Okay,
correct.
whereas then there are going to be far more complex experiments or
Mm,
pilots or real projects that will happen in order to really change the business model for the company.
mm,
So yes, there are many low hanging fruits that are already there and that
yeah.
have got the success as well.
Thank you, Dharmendra. So, Praveen, you have been the buyer in these kind of conversations. So, when you were evaluating services firms versus AI product companies, what actually changed in your decision framework? I mean, I'm sure it was not the vendor pitch, but the real calculus behind build, buy, or partner decisions. So, what
Yeah,
is?
yeah. So, in fact, that's a great question. So, what happened was I noticed a couple of changes. We had very dependable services partners. If I have to
Mm,
name, Datamatics was one, Prosaris is a niche player who was another. They definitely have started adopting AI as their offerings. Okay. And then there were some new age companies. So I'll just share a couple of examples. We were approached by a AI product company
mm,
to kind of offer us services where the entire payroll processing could be completely AI driven. So
mm,
which effectively would not only save us the cost of payroll processing, it would also possibly release more cash in the hands of employees. So if
mm,
you look at it from 1,000 feet level, then it's a clear go. Okay, so
mm,
there are you're saving the cost, and then employee also benefits, so everybody's happy, right? But when we looked at other parameters, then what we realized is we are handling sensitive data, the employee
mm,
sensitive data, which will be hosted on third party infrastructure, whether it is through the secure cloud, etc. So
mm,
we identified that as a risk. So,
mm,
despite an ROI which is positive, despite a very strong business benefit which was apparent, we still decided that we will not go ahead with it. Okay, so that is
okay.
one example.
Mm,
Second example I have is that of another company, again AI product company, which offered us employee sentiment analysis. Okay,
mm,
and there again we thought that okay, this is what it is. However, there is no quantification of ROI which was there, because what would you do by doing sentiment analysis? Whether
mm,
employees are
mm,
happy, not happy, worried, whether location wise there is any differentiation. But
mm,
we thought it is something good to know. Okay, obviously because it's a ready AI product, not a
mm,
lot of cost of acquisition. So we experimented with that. So two examples, clear ROI, not clear ROI, but then the deciding factor was the perceived risk with which we assessed and then deployed. Likewise, when we talk of some of the large services organizations, okay, obviously we have seen Accenture heavily deploying ChatGPT. Okay, they are kind of using it big time. IBM has come up with lot of domain-specific products with their Watson X. Now, Datamatics, they have kind of productized TrueBot, True AI, and stuff like that. Then the name Prosaris rings a bell, where we experimented with the services offering, okay, where we looked at a natural language processing for contract review, which was a very tedious task, and we developed it, okay, using Azure APIs, okay,
Okay.
and now that is being again kind of modeled as a product offering. So there is a learning, So what I'm trying to say is, even with the trusted partners, there is a path with which you learn together. You kind of create something which is domain specific and take it forward. So it's more like a collaborative effort. But again, the levers, earlier we used to look at the SLAs, we used to look at the cost, we used to look at the other details. Now we obviously look at all these, but we also look at the accountability part, okay, the explainability part, and the other regulatory developments which have come into play. Even that is being taken care of. Earlier, whenever there used to be a proposal, digitization has been happening for ages now. Okay, so whenever there was a proposal, the resistance probably would be more from the finance team in terms of investments, ROI, justification, etc., or the business users, where the change management is always a challenge. Okay? Now, if I have to kind of see the balance, then the business, because of the hype which is surrounding AI, they may be wanting to, like what we discussed some time back, fear of moving out or missing out. So FOMO, fear, is catching up. So the resistance is less from the business teams, but then the compliance teams, the audits, and the board, the governance board, they would be keen to also have a vote in terms of taking the final decisions. So that's in a nutshell what has been changing.
Thank you, Praveen. I think there are two key points that you made. One is, of course, the ROI. How you see the ROI, and then there's a perceived risk. So if there's a risk element which has been associated from different angles, so that is also critical when you're deciding on these technologies. Apart from that, of course, the sentiments from a wider committee of stakeholders who are involved. So we have, while you are sharing, your insights, we have received a couple of comments, questions here. So from Bharti, we have received a question. How do you see the revenue models changing with the AI cycle? Dharmendra, you like to share your insights here?
Yeah, I'm not sure if this question was for the IT services or for other companies.
Yeah.
I am assuming that it is for the IT services because Bharti is asking that question, and I know Bharti. Okay, so so it is going to be for the IT services. So the revenue model, if you look at, there are certain traditional services. Okay, it is going to remain the way it is, but I think it will be interesting to see how it moves in the future, because it is not that suddenly with the touch of a button or a fingertip we are going to change everything that has been built for so many years into something which is completely artificial intelligence enabled. Okay, so it is going to take time. So it is going to be a mix of what has always been there, but also the newer revenue coming in, where there are newer set of platforms that will get created, which will be artificial intelligence enabled platform, okay, AI enabled platform, and their revenue would, one, it could be again in a pure play services format, but also if the IT companies are smart enough to start reimagining their own business model, they can actually make it service plus a solution or a reusable component or an asset based revenue as well. And I'll give one simple example for us to look at. For example, ERP. Today, ERP is set of processes,
Hmm.
and that is how it gets executed. Every process gets executed. Below that, there is data. But now that process was all deterministic process. That means that you know how it is done. It is repetitive in nature. It is sequential in nature. It was a deterministic process.
Hmm.
You know how it will run, and every time it will run like that. But going forward, when we are talking about artificial intelligence, it is going to be a probabilistic process.
Hmm.
That means you would give that task or a prompt and you expect the answer.
Hmm.
And you do not know always what is the route that process has taken in order to arrive at that answer.
Hmm.
Now it has both positives and negatives. The positive is that your job is only to look at what you give that as an input and what you get as an output. But the challenge is, do you trust what AI has given it to you?
Yeah.
Because if data at the bottom was biased data, you will get the biased result also. Okay, it tells you that you produce so many vehicles during this month with so many colors of each. You will question, how did you arrive at that decision?
Hmm.
Okay, so we need to find a middle ground, okay, in order to do that. Now when that set of agents or probabilistic processes have to be done, there is an opportunity for IT companies to actually create assets.
Hmm.
Okay? And ERP will not remain set of processes, it will become set of agents.
Yeah.
Example for O2C, can I create an O2C agent? In fact,
Hmm.
O2C agent will also be set of agents. Okay,
Hmm.
so that we can have expert agents as part of that or a subset of that, and we can, even if it is required to use small language model in order to get more expertise in a particular specific area. Okay,
Hmm.
now IT services, can they build, let's say, O2C agent, and they say that it doesn't matter which ERP you use, I can come and install that and I will
Hmm.
charge for that agent and not
Hmm.
for the people that I used to deploy earlier to maintain O2C for
Hmm.
ERP.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that is where the shift in revenue can happen. But that is
Yeah.
only for those companies who will actually build their business model keeping that in mind.
Hmm.
If
No,
an
you.
IT services companies take the older way that you want to build an agent, I will give you five people, okay, who knows this, how to do it, and they will build
Hmm.
it for you. Then, of course, we are working in a same model that we have been doing it for many years. And that would
Right.
mean we will be only be able to charge cost plus plus. That's it.
Hmm.
But if we need to change our revenue model, we need to also change the business model underneath it so that we are becoming the services plus asset organization. And
Hmm.
I believe that there is an opportunity for IT services now to reimagine that model.
Thank you, Dharmendra. In fact, that also reminds me of that service as a software. So, in fact, earlier we used to listen software as a service. Now there's a service as a software concept that is coming, and a lot of people are seeing that is going to be adopted. We have received a couple of questions more. Unless Praveen, do you have any comment to this question? Otherwise, I can move to the next question.
Yeah. In fact, definitely, I just would use one analogy here. That earlier services, and we used to build from the scratch. So I would say it is like the petrol or diesel car. Now with AI, we have components, fewer components. It's like electric vehicle. However, let's be ready and understand that we are still not ready to have a completely autonomous car with no restrictions on ethics or anything. Okay, so
Hmm.
the reality is somewhere in between, but we are progressing into that. So
Hmm.
that's the point I would make.
Thank you, Praveen. In fact, we have also received a comment. So before I go to other questions, I'll just show a comment which is a little kind of a contrary opinion from Aman Pandey, who's saying, I think you are wrong. Have you tried building using the latest IDs? 100 times more work at 100 times the speed and high quality output. So I think there, while we have certain approaches, but there could be counter approaches that would be there. that could be existing, and that should be certainly tested out as we, as the technology industry is this evolving. So there, of course, we are going to see, various models that would come up, various, revenue architecture or architects that would come. Let me move to a few more questions that we have got. So this is from Prashant Dikshit. So everyone is rushing to adopt AI and transforming their businesses, functions, teams. But for a solution services company, distribution muscle is the key. How to build a great distribution network? Would love to hear thoughts on it.
Yeah. So, when we are talking about supply chain, for example, and I am assuming that the question is in that domain that it is coming, it is absolutely right that the distribution is going to be very, very key when it comes to the supply chain. And I think that is where a lot of impact that might happen. If you look at historically, especially in the logistics and the distribution companies, it has always been very, very specific to that particular organization. There is a very least amount of standardization that happened in the logistics and the distribution space. But having said that, that doesn't mean that the innovation has not happened in that direction. Okay. For example, there are multiple models that have been created where, by using the data that has always been there with the organizations, the companies have been able to create good visibility of what is the supply required and what is the demand that is there. And based on that, they have been able to create the model that is much better than what it used to be when cloud was not there or digital was not there. And same is going to be with the artificial intelligence also, that if it is a black box that we are talking about, where we are inputting something and then getting an output, we would expect at that point of time that AI agent is really looking at how the distribution is happening. What is the weather today? Okay. If there is a traffic on the road, or if there are other challenges that are going to be there on the way, it should be able to reroute and create absolutely a new method or new route to deliver something that is required or distribute something that is required. Okay. All those are getting experimented today in the supply chain domain. So I absolutely believe that there is a good potential. It is just that there are not as many use cases today that I am aware of that I would be able to suggest. But definitely this is one area where when it comes to demand and supply, I have seen it happening, and I have myself implemented for one of my clients, and I know that particular specific use case very, very well. But if I extrapolate that, it is definitely going to really transform the distribution as well. And the question was right, that this is what should get transformed to get the maximum benefit of using AI as well.
Thank you. Thank you, DK. Praveen,
Vishendra, this is actually a good question. And if you're talking of supply chain management, okay, I remember earlier there used to be a concept called CPFAR, Collaborative Planning, Forecasting and Replenishment. So we've done that in Godrej Consumer Products many years back, actually. But there was a lot of dependency on collecting the data from the distributor and then using it to automatically forecast the demand and replenish. So that is where we tried to kind of use technology in the distribution setup. Now I know, though I need to get specific details, but Unilever have actually used agentic AI to kind of forecast and replenish the stock levels. And in FMCG particularly, this comes very handy because there are thousands of SKUs. You could have, for example, in Godrej, we used to have Synthol at a particular outlet of a particular size. Then there are different schemes which keep coming. So their agentic AI is definitely useful. Okay, and also similarly in Amazon, they are using it for the distribution. Sorry, for the entire supply chain. So if it is for the supply chain management, then these are the examples.
Right. So
Prashant's question was about distribution of solutions and services for an
For an
AI
AI.
solution company. Yeah. No, definitely. A similar principle can be applied in that space as well, because when we build the solutions, do we build solution for specific problems, or do we build solution for generic issues? Okay. At the same time, as we continue to train the agents on the data, you can make those solutions apply to more and more a set of users who can be there. So the distribution also will change over a period of time. The part that is very, very important for us to understand in the AI is that how much data it has been trained on. And it doesn't matter whether it is distribution or any other process. The more the data that we train it on, better
Hmm.
it is for applying it to the situations that it would not have seen it before. So to make it more and more generic, to make it more and more applicable to the larger set of users, it need to be trained on the data. And I think same is going to be applied to the solution companies also, that they may build solutions today for specific users or specific companies, and going forward it is going to become generic, and
Hmm.
there should be platforms in order to distribute that, and whoever can use it should get distributed through the platforms rather than on one-on-one basis.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
he
yeah.
might be also referring to that scenario of the APIs that have been distributed through various marketplaces, or the
Right.
solutions products that
Correct.
have been
Yeah.
Yeah.
like.
I'll just add my 2 cents, okay, because
Yeah.
I've mostly been on the buyer side though.
Hmm.
But I think that's a very pertinent question, something which is difficult to crack. The two examples which I talked about at the beginning, okay, the product was good, intent was
Hmm.
good, but it lacked the distribution muscle. Okay,
Hmm.
and there is a challenge there, because for the AI product or any, if you look at a component, because there is an existing set of, let's say, an ERP, if there is an SAP or there is a CRM or there is any
Hmm.
solution, how does this complement and how does that happen? Okay,
Hmm.
do
Hmm.
we co-sale? Okay, or we create ready adapters? Because unless you have the presence and availability of the product by virtue of your distribution muscle, it is very
Hmm.
difficult to cut the race.
Yeah.
So therefore, it has to be addressed. I think it will need a deeper thinking, perhaps. But yeah, it's a challenge, and that
Thank
is
you.
there. Sorry, yeah, Vision the word.
No, so I think we'll move to the next question. This is from Arun Matthew. So very few organizations are asking a quick question: what are the business process and efficiency leaks? How do we fix the process? So just doing AI or AI agents for the hype is where these implementations fail. So
Okay, I will take that because I know Arun. He's a very senior person, and he's been actually, if I may say so, my partner in crime. So, uh, Arun, I think I know what you're asking. So, obviously, uh, AI as a hype. Can we have the question on the display again? I will just kind of try and
yeah, sure.
this. Okay. So, Arun, I think you're spot on here. What are the business processes and efficiency leaks? Actually, because the the first principle in selecting whether it is a product or a services should be what is the business problem that we are trying to solve. Now, the business issue comes first. Technology is coming afterwards. Okay, so I cannot go to the market, shop an AI product, and see where it fits and try to fit in. Then obviously it is that is where the 95% of the cases will fall. Wherein Vishwendra talked about the failure cases. However, if we are trying to actually address a business case, okay, I talked about the natural. We had a huge contract review overload. Okay, and now with DPDP and GDPR and all those acts coming, and everybody was worried with what is that, how do we handle that? Okay, and so we had started looking at AI as a natural language processing unit where it can automate the process. So we were able to take the turnaround time from 8 days to 8 hours. Okay, but we also introduce a human in the loop so that there is a supervision, because otherwise there are biases. Okay, there are biases which could give us false negatives or false positives. So that is the way, obviously. But I think Arun, hopefully, I have answered the question. But yes, we need to first look at the issue and then look at the solution following that.
Thank you. And thank you, Arun, for sharing your question. We have a question from Ashil Shah. Many services firms are now looking to build their own AI assets or accelerators to compete with product companies. From your perspective, what is the key to balancing a service-oriented culture with the product mindset required to build scalable AI assets? So I think
Yeah,
that's a question that I also had earlier. But yeah, if you could
correct.
share your response to this.
Yeah, very quick one. While we have spoken about it a little bit before, that how do we build the assets? Now, and I took one example of order to cash, but there could be multiple such examples that can be there. But it is not going to be an easy transition. It has been for many years that services companies have thought that can we build product, but they have not been as successful as they originally thought. It is because the culture of a services company is very different from the product company.
Mm.
But there have been cases where there are accelerators can be created, okay, or some solutions can be created, and there is an opportunity with AI that where I talked about order to cash, for example, as an agent that can be
Mm.
created. Okay, now the assets can be built. It is not that it can't be done. Okay,
Mm.
there is an opportunity now to really relook at that piece. I would still believe that they cannot suddenly move away from the service and become product company. They will have to kind of have a twin model in which
Mm.
they have the services, but some of the reusable assets that they can build, so that that can be implemented and complement the technology that have already been implemented with our clients, and those assets can be put there or can be reused it with multiple clients. I think that
Mm.
is what can be done, and the AI agents could be of that form. Now you can
Yeah.
do it two ways. One is that you build an AI agent and you say that I'm selling AI agents like a product, and I would like to behave like a product company, and I will sell licenses. The second is that subscription model, that here is my market place where I am putting the agents. You can download, you can configure, we can help you configure that, and then it is running in a subscription model. Okay, that could again be a services model,
Mm.
but based on the assets. So we will have to really look at how things emerge. Okay, how companies are going to successfully navigate the way they are going to build these assets. But at the same time, we also have to understand it is not that SAP is not going to build the agents. Even
Yeah.
SAP is going to build the agents also. Or any other ERP or CRM is also going to build the agents. So it is, as I see it, going to be a competition between the product companies as well as services companies in order to catch that space where they both can coexist or build their own respective assets and be able to deliver services around those.
Praveen, what
So,
is your
yeah,
opinion here, especially from
yeah.
a build and buy perspective? Uh,
Right. So
from
I
investment?
think there are, we already talked about how Accenture, IBM's, TCS, Infosys have tried to kind of,
Mm.
expand or move or, widen their perspective. Uh, and we also looked at product AI first product companies also. I have a view that going forward, there is going to be much more trend, because what the
Mm.
services companies also have is a domain expertise. Okay.
Mm. Mm.
Now, if they're coming up with domain specific models, the chances of success are much higher. Okay. For
Mm.
example, IBM has Watson X. So
Mm.
Watson X is giving them a very good result in terms of governance, the legal areas, etc. There are other examples, Bloomberg, which is in
Mm.
financial market. The advantage there, if you have a domain expertise, is that you are limiting the hallucination risk, okay,
Mm.
or jagged frontier is, or the biases, because there is an expertise, the quality of data, and the training that the engine is receiving is much more specific. Now, that domain specific models will be addressing a specific concern. Their data would be of that quality, and the learning, the intelligence which gets built in would be that much more accurate, less bias. So, in fact, I also had a real life example of, I talked about a company called Prosaris. Okay, now they are a services company, but when they developed over the years the expertise about the contract review process, now they've productized and offering is as a domain specific service where for document analysis, contract analysis, buy side, seller side, their product is getting good reviews. So obviously it's an expansion. So I think we would see more examples of people like Prosaris where their services can. So those vendors who adapt and evolve, definitely they will be successful. Okay, but the laggards may have to face some issues.
Yeah. If we also kind of look at this AI adoption, you'd see there's a lot of growth in the GCC, which is also happening. So there's a lot of companies who are actually investing in GCCs, their own global capability centers, so that they can own the IPs, they can own these the data that they have been owning, and they can use that in a control environment. So is that also a trend that you see? So while of course there could be scenarios wherein organizations would intend to buy from IT products company or services company, but then they might also build in-house capabilities moving forward.
Yeah, I think again, if you look at every time newer technology comes, the businesses would like to retain that knowledge with themselves. Okay, it was the same question that came up when we had digital adoption being done from 2010 or 12 to till date, where everyone said that we would like to do the experimentation or would like to do the innovation in house, because there is a lot of sensitivity towards IPs that they build, and now in AI case there is a sensitivity towards data. Okay, so they would like to do that at in-house, and hence there definitely is going to be an acceleration towards having a GCC, so that how can we retain that knowledge and intellectual property within house itself. But as any technology becomes older, you tend to outsource it to do it at the lower cost. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's a typical cycle in which when the technology becomes older, you outsource it. I think that is what will happen in this case also. AI is new. They are definitely going to retain more and more in-house. And as it becomes older, it is going to get outsourced so that they can do it with the lesser cost.
Yeah,
Right, absolutely.
I'll just add one point there. GCC is a very important point which Chandra wish to bring to table. We see a lot of growth. We see a tremendous amount of in terms of percentage, in terms of numbers. In India, the confidence being growing as a GCC center. Okay, what I have seen is, because we've set up our own GCC a few times, a massive scale. Now, the development or AI adoption is not happening in the headquarters, in the global headquarters. It's actually getting focused in the GCCs. Because GCCs are basically the back office, the competency centers where the process knowledge, the efficiency drivers, the cost containment, and everything is happening. So we see a lot of effort in adopting AI at the GCCs. How far they succeed is again may vary on a case-to-case industry, what competencies we're talking of, and so on. So
Thank you, Praveen. So I'll move quickly to next question, which has come from Deepak Mehta, and this is related to how do you price your services. So when IT companies charge $35 per hour, how they will compete with PhD level AI at $20 per month, with OpenAI saying that GDP is 70% with OpenAI 5.2 model, where experts work at around 50% with 170x considering 176 hours in a month, revenue reduction. So how IT business services will survive?
Yeah, I think those are the challenges that are being talked about a lot.
Hmm.
And that is the reason, there is so much of discussion about the disruption in the talent pool that is being discussed in the
Hmm.
industry. We had to look at that the old model was that if somebody knows just programming,
Hmm.
that person is valuable because programming was not yet automated. And
Hmm.
now that is getting automated. And then that question definitely will need to be asked that what will happen to those skills? Okay. Where with the much cheaper cost, we can deliver much faster and much better. So I believe that the old roles where people said that I know how to write a program, it was like somebody knows how to lay bricks when making a building. Okay. Now that might not be required because that is a part that is getting automated. But how to make the design of that building, okay, how do you construct the building in the way the user is asking? Now that architecture or that architect or that designer would still be required. And if you talked about a process being set of agents, the role of people will change to become an orchestrator rather than a performer. Okay, they don't need to really execute each task. They will need to really look at how do they set the goals and how do they design it and how do they architect it, how do they integrate it together and how they stitch it together. I think that is where people would be required. And wherever we think that people are going to get some certification in a particular course, I think they are definitely going to get a tough time going ahead because AI is shaping up much, much faster than what we anticipated in the beginning. And the results are becoming more and more accurate. So definitely there is a challenge that is going to be there. But then, the newer set of productivity, would be expected from the people also. And people will also shape up and will get trained. All that will be required as we move forward. So it is going to be a lot of changes on the fly rather than we can anticipate that what all will change. But definitely there's a lot that is changing, and people need to continue to train themselves on the newer set of skills as to how do they use AI to make something happen rather than saying that I am going to build something from the scratch.
Right. I'll just add. Can I just re-see the check the question? I wanted to because I read it, but just to give a bias perspective. Okay. Okay. I'm giving as a buyer. Okay. Uh, so as a buyer, I am not worried about this. Okay. I don't think or Deepak Mehta also should be worried about this because as a buyer, when I'm taking a decision, it is not only a cost decision. Okay, you talked about Chat GPT giving me something at $20 a month. I will still not buy it because it is not giving me accountability. Okay,
Hmm.
it is giving me an outcome. It has to be owned by somebody. When I'm talking to a person or when I'm taking a decision, I also need accountability. So I know that this is the product, this is the outcome. Somebody has to take the responsibility if there's something goes wrong. Okay,
Yeah.
unless that total accountability also comes into play, I'm not going to be cost conscious only because I have to make sure that my organization keeps running. Okay,
Yeah.
else there are other risks. So this is only one dimensional fear. I don't think we need to worry about.
Thank you, Praveen. Thank you. That's a great point to make. And I believe Deepak, you might have got your answer. So you need not worry. There's a lot of
There are good
opportunity which
buyers.
will be
There
there
are good
for
Yeah,
IT
buyers.
new
skills.
opportunity that will come. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a question that has come from. Sorry, we couldn't see the name of the LinkedIn user, but great thoughts, DK. IBM Consulting CEO Mohammed Ali is also asking about service as a software pivot of the consulting industry for some time now. So I'm not sure if this is a comment or a question. But I would consider this as a comment at this stage because we are short of time and we have to quickly also move to uh, the human dimension. But before that, there's another question, couple of questions and comments from Biplab Mohanty. AI is actually a replica of the human brain and reacts how we train it. Absolutely, basics is important to implement and design. And will AI reduce the cost and man hours? So yes, there will be productivity gains, and it can reduce the cost and man hours. But as Praveen also mentioned, human in the loop design has to be there. So if, the risk which are associated has to be taken care, and I don't think the systems are ready to kind of address those risks which can be posed by the bias. Okay, so we now move to critical dimension as well, which is the human dimension. Of course, we did talk about some bit. Dharmendra did mention that talent is equally important. But when you look at the market dynamics, and there are also certain news which says 400,000 to 500,000 IT services professionals potentially face displacement by 2027, and 70% of them are going to be mid-career people with 4 to 12 years of experience. And when you have these kind of statistics, you sometimes becomes very concerned. But then if you look at the three different age groups, and if we talk about the leaders, and there are leaders who are watching this, so whether in services firms, enterprises, or startups, where should they be investing their in terms of upskilling or acquiring more talent, so that they can sustain during the uncertain times that could come due to AI adoption. Dharmendra, would you
Yeah.
like to address?
So,
How, yeah.
there, as I said earlier, there is no doubt uh, uh, there will be change that will be required, and everyone
Mm,
will have to look at how, with the newer skills or talent, they remain relevant.
mm,
Okay, yes, there will be newer opportunities that will come up. Yes, the experience, the human experience, will be far, far more important than what machine can really throw at us. Or at the same time, the trust issues that can only be sorted by giving a human touch rather than only through the machine, all that will be there. But if you look at very carefully, the data is going to be very, very key.
mm,
So a lot more would be needed in order to really look at how do we manage our data, how do we clean our data, how do we ensure that our data is transformed to a place where we can use it to get the right results. Okay, so
mm,
the
mm,
data skills are going to be extremely important going forward. The second skill that is going to be very, very important, between, I'm talking about all those between 4 to 12 years kind of thing, the business process. The business process is going to be very critical, because if every application would like to have an agent deployed, each traditional process will have to be relooked. And if each traditional process has to be relooked and to be converted into predictive and probabilistic process, that would
mm,
mean that there is a lot of rewrite that would be required for the software that has already been developed, whether it is
mm,
ERP or CRM, or it is a custom application that has been developed. They will require to go through the change. And hence, our ability to understand what the as is process is, what should be the target process, and how do we change that, it is going to be very, very critical.
mm,
Third is going to be the domain skill. Praveen talked about it. Okay, those companies who have a deeper domain skill would be able to determine what is the business result that is required by my clients,
mm,
and they would be able to understand the problem very well. They will be able to create such models or machine learning algorithms in a much, much better way. And that knowledge is going to be also very, very crucial. So people who would develop that skills are the one who are going to gain in a big way. So these are the top three things that we can talk about. At the same time, there will be other orchestration skills. How do we orchestrate between the agents? How do you
Mm,
set the right goals for them? How do you determine whether the result that is coming is accurate or not? How
mm.
do you understand and open the black box and determine whether the right path was taken to arrive at the final decision? I think those are the skills that are going to be far, far more important. And as leaders, we will have to train our people.
Mm.
It's not that those are going to get developed suddenly out of the colleges. No, we will have to start developing, and then there'll be a reverse engineering that will be required that it reaches to the colleges also. So all that would be required in order for us to bring the talent up and be productive for the purpose that we will require in the AI era.
Thank you, Dharmendra. I think this change would certainly require that bit of education and upskilling, so as to survive in the coming times. But Praveen, do you want to? There's also a comment that has come from Prashant. We believe that there are things AI misses in the context: risk, ability, accountability, purpose, truth checks. How do you value these over yesteryear skills? So are these
Yeah,
also, there are some certain skills that needs to be developed for these contexts?
I will. Yeah, I will. I'll try and address Prashant's question and also give a generic my view. Okay, so obviously, first and foremost, AI or any technology is not going to reshape the careers, or it is not going to replace professionals. But those who are not evolving with time, definitely they will lose their relevance. Okay.
Mm,
Now let's look at young engineers. Okay? Young engineers will have to follow systemic thinking and not just coding skills, platform skills, etc. Because that used to be the bread and butter.
mm,
Top level people who are in the senior most positions, I don't think we expect them to get familiarized with Python, R, and stuff like that. But they need to know the governance framework, the stewardship, the right questions to ask, and understand what is to be expected. Okay,
mm,
that leaves it at the mid level. Okay, now I will again combine with what Prashant asked here. Okay, obviously the AI misses. We all know about AI hallucination. We all know about AI biases. We all know that there are lack of accountability. So let
mm,
me rephrase it. Why don't we look at it as a flywheel that creates an opportunity or roles in the new age AI? Okay,
mm, mm,
what if because AI is missing that, why don't we make it as a career choice? Okay, I'm a domain expert, I know. So I'm a supervisor, human in the loop, looking at what are the biases and controlling that, right?
mm,
Now, or I could be someone who would look at controlling the hallucination part. Okay, the governance. Okay, so there are these are all intermediate roles. These are new roles. Now, data cleanliness is important. Okay, money
mm,
much more than ever before. So there is a role of making sure that he is the person responsible for data repository. Now, the new act has come, DPDP. So obviously we
mm,
have data fiduciary responsibilities. So there is new role which is going to come. So people will need to map what is the demand and adapt their skill supplies to be
mm.
relevant. And they definitely the market will take care of it. I think that's the way it is. And once of the time we are already overshot, but
Yeah.
this is something which is interesting.
Mhm. Yeah. No, thank you, Praveen. I think this is a very interactive conversation, and I'd like to thank audience. We shared so many questions, and I'd also like to thank Dharmendra and Praveen for sharing these insights. We actually opened with a very provocative question: Is IT services doomed? But that was never actually the right question. The question is, what does IT services become when AI becomes the operating system of businesses? And here's the this conversation actually illuminated. It doesn't disappear; it transforms.
And just
Firms that
to
embed,
push that point again, Vishwendra,
yeah,
IT services is going to grow because
mm,
I anticipate that maybe a year down the line, there is great rewrite coming because
correct,
we
yeah,
will have to rewrite the business processes, we will have to rewrite the applications sitting on top of that.
yeah,
So the
absolutely.
opportunity is only going to go and increase. Okay, there are
Mm,
newer models that are going to come, newer platforms that are going to come. I know that current is a period because of multiple reasons that it is where it is, where we can question the valuation and we can attribute everything to AI. I don't think it is all because of the AI. but the opportunity is significant down the road, and I think we all need to be ready for that.
Yeah, absolutely, Damin. In fact, I was about to share the stats which actually shows that trend. In fact, so while we covered that, firms that embed AI, firms or talent that embed AI into their DNA or the organizational DNA, the shift from headcount metrics to outcome delivery, from projects to platforms, from labor arbitrage to intelligence amplifications, those organizations would lead the next decade. In fact, when we look at the data, of course, the data that I shared earlier, that the market has already rendered a judgment when we are maintaining the status quo that $150 billion in value evaporated. But there's another stat that says that the by 2030, service as software could represent a $1.5 trillion market.
Yeah.
So the pyramid may invert. Entry-level contracts, specialists, rocks expand, senior leaders become AI orchestrators rather than people managers. So the transformation is approaching, it's kind of it's going to take shape in the years or in the months that's going to come. But yes, I would again echo what Damin wrote earlier. The biggest risk isn't disruption; it's irrelevance through outdated thinking. So we have to be relevant. We have to, and as Praveen also mentioned, as times come, we need to keep us upskilling. We need to keep us updating, and that's the way moving. That's the way going forward. Before we close, we are continuing this conversation on January 22nd with our next 2020X Vision session, moving your AI to scale faster from proof of concept to proof of profit. And Gayatri Devi would be joining. Gayatri Devi Jayan would be joining. She is the founder of AI Advice, and she is also a chapter president at Applied AI Association. So she will be joining with me on this session, but we will be also expecting more speakers to join. And Arun Matthews also shared a couple of good insights in his post, and I would probably I actually committed that I am going to share what he shared with us. But I think what summarized us is the takeaways that we had received from the insights that we have got from DK and Praveen. We're looking forward to building this conversation again in our next session. But thank you, DK, and thank you, Praveen, for joining this session. In fact, we are very short of. We already exceeded the time. I actually wanted to also ask you one more question, which is, what are the trends? What one specific trend that you see in 2026? Because we are at the end of the year. But maybe we can probably have this question at in 2026 itself.
Yeah.
So
Two words for me: the great rewrite is the trend that I am already seeing.
Oh, thank you, DK. Praveen.
Yeah, I'm pretty bullish about the domain specific models. Okay, and I'm following that, and I'm seeing great success stories.
Awesome. So thank you for joining this session, and thank you, audience, for being so interactive and sharing your insights. We have received some more comments, but due to paucity of time, we are not able to share it here. But thank you, and we look forward to seeing you on 22nd of Jan. Till then, great year, a great celebration till the end of year, and Happy New Year to all of you in advance.
Yeah, Happy New Year to everybody, and thank you, Vishwendra. It's been a pleasure and privilege to interact with you and DK. Absolute joy.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Praveen.
I really enjoyed the questions.
Yeah. Bye-bye.